Hello there, YouTube friends and family. This is Mike, the Patriarch. The goal of this channel is to share with you from a middle of the road kind of guy, just an average, everyday, the average Joe, who happens to be a Christian and a father of his family, sharing with you faith and opinions on everyday stuff in the world. Today, I'd like to share with you a video interview that I saw between Sean McDowell. I'd like to share with you today a video between Sean McDowell and Lee Strobel about the supernatural. So this interview brought up a very interesting subject, and that has to do with deathbed experiences. The book that they'll be discussing from Lee Strobel, he's coming out with a new book called Seeing the Supernatural, and he's the author of books such as The Case for Christ, The Case for Faith, and other books in the Case series. And this interview touched on a few things that I thought were very interesting, and I think other people out in the world, like myself, can relate to. And I just wanted to cover a few things and see what you thought. So let's get to it. Well, here's Sean introducing Lee Strobel.
You've written a ton of books. I want to know why you wrote this book now. And by now, I mean two things. Now, why this cultural moment? But second, the older I get, the more I weigh the cost of writing certain books. And let's just say you've got a few years on me. So clearly, every book that you write, it's like, I'm only going to write something that I think will make a difference. So why now in your journey, and why now culturally a book on seeing the supernatural?
I think the cultural moment is appropriate for this. 8 out of 10 Americans believe that there is something beyond the physical world. So there's a lot of agreement on that. But what is that other world, and how do we know? And you see a lot of wacky stuff online and on television and on YouTube about just crazy stuff that people claim is true about the supernatural realm. And I think we're seeing a moment in which a lot of the new atheists passing away.
So he mentioned something there that I thought was interesting. 8 out of 10 people have these experiences with the supernatural, deathbed experiences. These can be like visions that somebody sees or something that preempts death that is unexplainable. So let's continue.
And people are looking for something beyond the idea that there is no God, there is no thing beyond the material world. And I think they're hungry to find out, is there really something? Is this all there is, or is there a life beyond this? Is there a world and a realm beyond this? And I think, as someone who started as a skeptic, like your dad did, and a doubter, an atheist, I wanted to kind of apply some of those techniques to investigate. How do we know? That's kind of the thrust of the book. How can we be confident that there really is this supernatural realm?
So, I mean, what do you guys think? Do you feel like there's something supernatural? Have you had an experience like that in your family? Perhaps somebody who was ill? It's interesting because that's going to be the basis of his book. He covers quite a few different aspects of this. Seeing the supernatural is not just about deathbed, but that's what we're going to talk about today. And it's just a fascinating topic. And I think most people can relate.
Angels really exist, that demons really exist, that there is a heaven, that there is a hell. And so I was kind of looking for things beyond just stories, but documented cases, documented miracles published in peer-reviewed secular medical journals, things like that I could really communicate to people who are, me, skeptics, but also Christians who who, even though they believe that there's a supernatural world, sometimes there's that reservation they have. It's like, yeah, sure, I kind of believe it, but they're not totally convinced, just like that servant until he had his eyes opened up.
So, would you agree with that? I know we've probably all had that conversation with an individual or two in our family about, hey, you know, when John was passing away, he told me this or that, and it's fascinating. Kind of like, for me, it's like an X-File kind of deal, and it's sometimes we want to hope that there's something after death, and these things resonate with us, but then when we kind of get by ourselves, we start like, well, I don't know what that was all about. So I was just wondering if you had the same experience. Like, are you hopeful of stories like this, but then sometimes tend to talk yourselves out of it? I'll continue the video.
You've interviewed J. Steve Miller, the expert on pre-death vision, several times, and I interviewed him for my book too, as well, Seeing the Supernatural. And he reports the case of this huge hospice facility in New York State, where they said to the people who were dying, because a lot of people were dying who have these kind of experiences, don't want to talk about it. These deathbed visions, like, Stephen in Acts chapter 7, where Stephen, full of the Holy Spirit, the Bible says, before he's stoned to death, he sees heavens open up and he sees Jesus next to the Father. And so many people, this is so common. There are tens of thousands of documented cases in which people have visions of what is to come just before they die. They went to this huge hospice facility in New York State, and they said to the people, if you have a vision like this, not just a dream, but something that's beyond that, so vivid, so forth, tell us about it. We would like to know, because people get embarrassed. They think they're going to be accused of having dementia or something, so a lot of people don't talk about it. But they said, okay, 88% of them had a pre-death vision. 88%.
Yeah, 88%. That's a huge number. I think this is more common to us than we realize. If we look at this, that's a lot of common experience in this area. So, I mean, we could always chalk that up to coincidence, wishful thinking, like he's saying. But what about the possibility that there's something more, that there's something to the afterlife? It's just something to ponder. So let's continue.
Of them are corroborating. I'll give you a funny story. I'm talking to Leslie about this, my wife, doing this research. And I say, man, the stuff about these pre-death visions is unbelievable. I said, if there were just a few of them, you could write them off as an anomaly. But there are literally tens of thousands that have been investigated. And she said, well, you know about Al, don't you? I said, Al, father-in-law. No, what happened? She said, Lee, don't you remember what happened to Al? She said, just before your father-in-law Al died, he was in hospice. I went into his room, and he's all agitated. And he said, where's Marge? Where's Marge? And she said, what are you talking about? I said, where's Marge? And Marge was his sister, who had died a couple of weeks earlier. Nobody told Al because he was so ill. They didn't want to push him over the brink and kill him. So they kept this from him. But Al was all agitated because he had been talking to his sister Marge, who was dead, in his room prior to his own death. And to me, that's the kind of corroboration. We have people who are seeing not just a vision of what's to come, but actually either seeing or conversing with someone who is predeceased to that.
So what do you guys think? It's something to ponder, to think about. So it reminds me of an experience that I had with a loved one that passed away, and I won't get into details because I haven't really asked if I can, but just generally speaking. So I was with a family member who we knew was passing away. This person was terminal, and I heard that they were in the hospital. pretty much in their final days. And this person saw what she thought was a reverend or a pastor coming in. One of the things she was saying as she heard music playing, and I wish I could remember, I don't think we ever figured out the title of the song, but the context of the lyrics that she said, it was something where they were the chorus was something about comfort. I will never leave you. I'm always here. Something to that effect. And in speaking to her, I've been around my own mother, a friend of mine who had dementia, and I've been, in these different facilities visiting my mom and my friend who had been in a hospital or in care in one of these care facilities. And when you're dealing with somebody with dementia, they will ask you, like my friend had asked me, me and another buddy were visiting our friend, and he would say, are you guys here to take me out? Are you here to take me away from here? And like, we'll have to talk to the doctor, and then we'll talk about something else. Oh man, this place, he would be funny, right? This nurse, man, I'm gonna give her, I'm gonna give her the what for, and then we would talk about a few other things, and then he would kind of reset and ask the same question. Hey, are you guys here to take me out of here? So and that was over the period of a few minutes. And so the conversation would just kind of recycle, and he was pretty emotional about, us being there. He was hopeful that we would take him out of the facility. That wasn't this case with my family member. She was completely coherent, lucid. Like, it was a matter of fact, like, the other day I went down to the grocery store and picked up a few things, and then you know who I ran into? It was like that. So I took the opportunity to pray with her. Like, I wanted her to know that about Jesus, and she said, "Oh yeah, I've always believed in Jesus, always." So I just said, "Is it okay if I pray with you?" So we prayed about accepting Christ and everything, and a few weeks later she had passed. But that experience, though, like, she saw what she thought was a priest or a pastor coming in and giving her comfort, and then hearing the song on in the hallway, and I gotta get that song. She wanted me to wanted me and another loved one to find maybe we can find that song, and it just wasn't time to find the song, but she was comforted by that, and she was comforted by this person saying what he said. And we prayed and we talked about Christ, and if the time comes, accept Christ. I've always accepted Christ. So this is where I pass it off to you. What do you think about these stories? What do you think about what Sean McDowell was talking about, what Lee Strobel was talking about? His book, I would, suggest go and buy the book. I don't think it's out quite yet, but maybe you could pre-order it. I'm going to order it. It sounds fascinating. I've always been fascinated by this stuff, and I do think that there's something more to this world. Obviously, I'm a Christian. I'm a father of my family. I do believe that there is something to this world, and there's something in the afterlife. So I'm going to pass it off to you now. What do you think? Please, if you feel so inclined, share your story down below in the comments. Maybe throw a link in there too, like of a story you might have heard of, and give me a thumbs up on this and share it. Let me know if there's other things that you'd like me to cover on this particular interview. I'm going to do probably another one in the next couple of days, maybe a week or so. But it's just a fascinating story and a fascinating topic. So let me know. Love you guys, and I'll see you next time.